This one was tough to write. I love my customers. I really do. But after spending a couple decades in an on again, off again relationship with them, I've realized that I can often best show them my love by getting rid of the customers who cost my business too much time and money because they're not willing to adapt. I know that sounds harsh and wrong and like a recipe for a self fulfilling prophecy. Sure, I tell myself, ignore that little pain in the gut each time you lose a customer. I mean, running a business would be great if it wasn't for all those pesky customers. So yeah, let them walk away one by one until it's just you staring into the void of a product that nobody wants anymore. But here's the thing. If you're not losing customers, you're not growing. I mean, you may be growing, adding a trickle of new customers and prospects every day on that slow growth train to nowhere, but you're not growing, building a business that's a lot more valuable than it was yesterday and a lot less valuable than it will be tomorrow. I'm about to blaspheme. It doesn't matter if you're pushing your customers out the door or you're holding them tightly and telling them you'll never let them go. They will leave you eventually. They'll get bored or frustrated or find something better, or maybe life will just push them in a different direction that no longer requires your services. If that sounds like every relationship ever, you're not far off. I have teenagers. I live that drama daily. And in over 18 years of parenting and 25 years of building things customers need, I've learned that there's only one way to keep this from happening. And it requires letting some of those relationships go while you constantly challenge them and replace them. If they love you, they'll come back. Here's how to do this without losing all of them at once. Let's start with what we know to be true. If this doesn't sound like your experience, congratulations, you're the outlier. But in high growth B2B, most customer revenue is usually weighted heavily with a single customer or a single sector or a historical cohort. In high growth B2C, revenue is usually weighted with a certain set of ideal use cases, and the frequency of engagement with those use cases is likely driven by historical performance as well. Now, what does that mean? In other words, most of my customers are with me because they like what we've been doing the longest and the best. Trust has been bred. Now, because of the ever accelerating velocity of technical advancement, and I'm not just talking about software and apps, but any science related to any kind of product or service, including technical advancements that foster productivity. If your business is not constantly keeping in front of these advancements, not keeping up with, but keeping in front of, your business will either get left behind by a competitor or become a cog in a commodity offering. Like most recently launched AI companies are at this crossroads right now. Do they chase fancy chat, or do they actually invest in machine learning? Here's how those facts manifest themselves. If you're a growing business, customer acquisition costs, or CAC, almost always naturally accelerate. It's painful to watch them increase. It's much easier and more tempting to keep CAC low. But inescapably, the effectiveness of the methods attached to that lower CAC will always naturally decrease over time. When that happens, CAC will increase on its own. Now consider lifetime value, LTV, is also never infinite, and it almost always decelerates over time. You need to constantly be extending it by offering more and different value to your existing customer base, as well as new market prospects. Now this always creates friction for your current customers. How much friction depends on how confident you are in your growth strategy, because you're proactively causing that friction in the name of growth. I get to test a lot of this high growth methodology when writing articles like these and working with Teaching Startup, my project to bring targeted advice to entrepreneurs. Unlike your standard traditional writer, I'm constantly changing my topic choice, how deep or how broad I go into the tactical, even shifting format from written word to video. Most people love this roller coaster ride, some do not. Now, these shifts aren't random, and I don't make them lightly. When I do make them, I'm constantly measuring their impact on my readership, the feedback I get, and most importantly, the subscribers and unsubscribers to my email lists, blogging platforms, and video platforms. Now, I say most importantly because the act of subscribing or unsubscribing is a forward-looking metric for me. Subscribing means give me more, and unsubscribing means give me less. In the real world, this is one signal short of creating a customer and generating revenue. I not only get a sense of the rate of new customers to lost customers, but I also get to see some of the behavior of those lost customers. In almost every case, their recent behavior, opens, clicks, views, read time, feedback, was already nearing or at zero, which means they had stopped buying already. And that's when I realized that trying to continue to please them, trying to stop them from putting up their own hand and saying, yeah, this just isn't for me anymore, comes at the cost of acquiring new customers, lowering that CAC, increasing that LTV, staying relevant. But if I do something stupid and say pick up 10 times more unsubscribers than new subscribers, I know to stop that strategy immediately. Turns out, works the same way with my business and Teaching Startup and all the other high growth businesses I've founded or joined early in the growth cycle. Those strategy changes in my past include sacrificing large books of business or even eschewing entire industries that would have kept us mired in that slow growth lane. So let me be very clear about this. There's no way to grow and not lose customers. This is just my method for not losing a bunch of them at once. That way I can make more informed decisions about the efficacy of my growth strategy as I implement it. If I'm not gaining new customers at a multiple of the rate I'm losing customers, the growth strategy is flawed and needs to be rethought. The multiple I target and how long I wait is up to me, but the multiple should not be small and the wait should not be long. On the other hand, if I'm gaining more new customers and shedding customers who were already on their way out the door, that just helps my bottom line. During a growth cycle, that will always negatively impact a bottom line. So there are no hard feelings with the ones who leave, and I always mentally thank them on the way out. Yeah, that still sounds harsh. This was a tough one to write because I had to sort of hit that point between sarcasm and truth. I actually kind of do thank customers who leave who have been trouble. And in almost all cases, when I'm on a growth strategy that works and I do lose customers, for example, I'll look them up in MailChimp when somebody unsubscribes from my email list. 95% of the time, they hadn't been reading and they certainly hadn't been clicking. They were just there. So it's like, go. You're costing me fractions of pennies every time I send you an email. I don't need to be doing that. Now, I will lose some. Of course, you'll lose some, and those do hurt. But I think the risk you take by trying to desperately hang on to that 5% who were kind of important to your business, the risk is you're not going to be able to grow. And when you can't grow, those customers will leave you when something better comes along. Moving to video, that caused a few lost subscriptions. And I think it was because those people just needed an excuse to tell me they weren't reading, they weren't really interesting. They signed up in a flurry of, yeah, I'm going to start my own business. Everything's going to be great. And then they never read a single email. That's fine. I don't mind that. People do that all the time. And some of those people eventually come back and become amazing entrepreneurs. Awesome segue. Speaking of awesome entrepreneurs, I want to talk to you a little bit about Teaching Startup. It's my project to make more and better entrepreneurs. We do this by providing access to actionable, insightful, and honest advice for entrepreneurs, innovators, and leaders at all experience levels, regardless of their connections or resources. We are looking for ways to convert Teaching Startup into a path where you can support some of this public video and writing that we're doing, and we're looking to grow and expand that. So come on over to Teaching Startup, join up. There's a path for everyone. For our All Access members, Teaching Startup offers access to over 700 questions from hundreds of members, answers from hand-picked, experienced serial entrepreneurs. We have advice posts. We have member polls. You get new Q&A each week in an exclusive newsletter. It's 80% of the value of a traditional startup advisor for less than 2% of the cost. So thank you for watching this video. I really appreciate you giving me your time. If you want to support me, you can like the video, you can subscribe to the channel. Please subscribe to the channel. But if you really want to support me, you can help me help you by becoming a member at Teaching Startup. Go to teachingstartup.com. I appreciate you. Now go do great things.